Hi, Rebeca Ibarra for the Kingsman. I know you've taken steps to curb, stop, and frisk, but I would like to know what steps you're going to take against the rising crime rate in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think to put the crime rate in perspective, you know, over the last 20 plus years, certainly since the last 2 years of the Dinkins administration, we've experienced a dramatic decline in crime in New York City, all the way through Giuliani into Bloomberg. That's a good thing. I grew up in a time, the 1980s, you know, when I was in high school, across the street, and on my way to college later on in that decade, you know, which was in the middle of the crack cocaine epidemic. Things were very violent in New York City. We had a couple of years, I believe, where we exceeded 2,000 homicides a year. Right now, we're around 500. And so there's been a tremendous change. Only in recent years have we seen the explosion in stop and frisk activity. Now, my problem is I don't believe that stop and frisk is an effective crime-fighting technique for at least two reasons. One, the empirical evidence suggests that it's not effective. 90% of the people who are stopped, questioned, frisked, embarrassed, humiliated, often illegally searched. 90%. Not according to Assemblyman Jeffries, but according to the NYPD's own statistics, have done nothing wrong. No gun, no drugs, no arrest, no contraband, no weapon, nothing. Now in corporate America, you're not going to tolerate a 90% error rate. How is it that a 90% error rate in any reasonable view of the world can be cast as an effective crime-fighting technique? I just don't think that's a logical argument. That's number one. Number two, the police will tell you, and you know, I've had this conversation with Police Commissioner Kelly on a few occasions. The police will tell you that one of the most significant ways in which they can help fight crime is cooperation from the public. And when you stop 500,000, 600,000 innocent, law-abiding New Yorkers each and every year for no reason, by your own admission, because you let them go, because they're doing nothing wrong, that creates a poisonous relationship between the police and the community that minimizes the cooperation that the police can then get from the community. And so when you look at some of the violence that occurred this summer, I believe that there are a whole lot of reasons for it. Dysfunction in the home, lack of opportunity, wide variety of reasons. One of the reasons why you see it is because many of these young people don't believe that there are consequences. Part of it is the stop snitching culture, which is a terrible thing, and we've got to confront it head on, and I've done some work with my colleague, Senator Eric Adams, in that regard. He's been a good leader in that effort. But part of it is that folk in the community aren't interested in cooperating with the police because many of them view the police as a hostile, occupying force that regularly is treating innocent people as criminals. So if in that environment you allow a few bad apples to engage in this behavior, and many of them feel like it's not going to matter what they do because a lot of folk in the community will either be afraid to talk or unwilling to talk because of the hostile relationship with the police, to me, that's enabling criminal activity and behavior. It's not helping crack down on it. What I do look forward to doing, because stop and frisk is one particular issue within the broader context of the obligation that I believe I have and many others in public service do have to try and affirmatively address the activity that we saw this past summer, was very troubling in terms of the increase in shootings that impacted individuals, some innocent individual children. First question that I want to ask of the department or the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which is ATF, right? That's the federal entity that is responsible for enforcing federal gun laws in America, is where is your presence in New York City? I haven't seen it. Maybe it exists. as a member of Congress, I think that's one of the most relevant questions that I could ask. Because if the ATF, that's the federal agency charged with making sure that illegal guns are not on the streets of American cities, suburbs, and rural America, if the ATF is not in Brooklyn, New York, if you're not in Brownsville or East New York, where are you? Right? What are you actually doing to help us get illegal guns off of the streets? Because everyone can agree, community activists, Mayor Bloomberg, Police Commissioner Kelly, members of the legislature, incoming members of Congress, that there are too many guns. And the federal government has a role to play. I want to get an understanding of what that role is. How can it be enhanced? How can we work cooperatively to help them execute upon their mission to get some of these guns out of the streets?